Welcome to the February 2019 edition of Recite here at the Norman Williams Library. As always, we meet on the first Tuesday of every month at 5:30 or so, usually starting about 5:45. Did we make 5:45? Okay, cool, good. And thank you always to Macy Lawrence with WCTVA for filming this and then putting it online so we can all relive it and tell our friends what they missed and all those good things. This month, I often don't do much in the way of the poetry. I just, do little bits. But this month, Mary Oliver passed away. And Mary Oliver's, I think she's absolutely wonderful. Her poems, someone wrote about her that she is by far the most popular poet in this country as far as books purchased by people. Her stuff is very accessible, and so some people say maybe it's too simple, and it's like, there's a lot of up and down and, oh, that's just Mary Oliver, but there's something just really absolutely gorgeous about her work. And I was going through a bunch of her books trying to find one particular poem that I had read before that I loved, and of all the books that are not currently checked out, I couldn't find the darn poem. But I found a whole lot that are just about sort of on a similar theme. And the theme is a lot about how words don't always say what needs to be said, which is interesting for a poet to say. She looks at nature, and so it can seem really simplistic to just write about, a red bird or, a wave. But she looks at it in a way that's not simple. It may be simple, but not simplistic. There's a lot of beauty in it. And so I have a little smattering of Mary Oliver I'm going to read. They're all very short. The first one is called, What Can I Say? What can I say that I have not said before? So I'll say it again. The leaf has a song in it. Stone is the face of patience. Inside the river, there is an unfinishable story, and you are somewhere in it, and it will never end until all ends. Take your busy heart to the art museum and the Chamber of Commerce, but take it also to the forest. The song you heard singing in the leaf when you were a child is singing still. I am of years lived, so far 74, and the leaf is still singing.
Standing ovation.
Yay. The next one is called April. I wanted to speak at length about the happiness of my body and the delight of my mind, for it was April night, a full moon, but something in myself, or maybe from somewhere other, said, not too many words, please, in the muddy shallows. The frogs are singing.
You know that poem where Frost says the frog let's see, over there, singing 1,000 shrill, right?
Yeah.
I'll recite that someday.
This one has a very long title for a very short poem. With thanks to the field sparrow whose voice is so delicate and humble. I do not live happily or comfortably with the cleverness of our times. The talk is all about computers, the news is all about bombs and blood. This morning in the fresh field, I came upon a hidden nest. It held 4 warm, speckled eggs. I touched them. Then went away softly, having felt something far more wonderful than all the electricity in New York City. Isn't that awesome? And then this one, which I think speaks to what we do here. This is called The Mockingbird. All summer, the mockingbird in his pearl gray coat and his white windowed wings flies from the hedge to the top of the pine and begins to sing. But it's neither lilting nor lovely, for he is the thief of other sounds. Whistles and truck brakes and dry hinges, plus all the songs of other birds in his neighborhood. Mimicking and elaborating, he sings with humor and bravado, so I have to wait a long time for the softer voice of his own life to come through. He begins by giving up all his usual flutter and settling down on the pine's forelock, then looking around as though to make sure he's alone. Then he slaps each wing against his breast where his heart is, and copying nothing, begins, easing into it, as though it was not half so easy as rollicking, as though his subject now was his true self, which of course was as dark and secret as anyone else's. And it was too hard, perhaps you understand, to speak or sing it to anything or anyone but the sky. So, a wonderful woman passed away this month. And I have a bunch of her books up here, plus these, if anyone wants to look at them or check them out later. So let's see. Shall we start with Corey Cook? Okay, Corey Cook.
All right.
Okay. I wanted to start with a poem by, and I'm probably going to butcher her name, Kim Adonzio. This is sort of her take on a Valentine's Day poem. And it sort of spoke to me because I work at Dartmouth Hitchcock in the transplant department, and you'll get the reference. February 14th. This is a Valentine for the surgeons, ligating the portal veins and hepatic artery, placing vascular clamps on the vena cava as my brother receives a new liver. A Valentine for each nurse, though I don't know how many there are, leaning over him in their gauze masks. I'm sure I have enough, as many hearts as it takes, as much embarrassing sentiment as anyone needs. One heart for the sutures, one for the instruments I don't know the names of, and the monitors and lights, and the gloves slippery with his blood. As the long hours pass, as a J-tube is placed to drain the bile, and one heart for the donor who never met my brother, but who understood the body as gift and did not want to bury or burn that gift. For the man, I can't imagine how one heart could suffice, but I offer it, while my brother lies sedated, opened from sternum to groin. I think of a dead man being remembered by others in their sorrow, and I offer him these words of praise and gratitude, O beloved whom I did not know. And then I was just going to read a couple of my own. This next one is a very new one. It's called Adrift. Somehow my mother becomes a sailboat the night my grandmother dies. She rocks at the bedside until the final breath comes, goes. The final breath that propels her forward, causes her to drift out of the room, aimless and unseaworthy, into the open arms of family members offering their temporary coves. But she is inconsolable, restless, sets out again, makes it to the mudroom where a man sits smoking by an open window, the tip of his cigarette a lantern, guiding her ashore as he stands, steadfast as a mooring bollard, her husband, my father. Okay. And the last one, the title is What to Do with a Dying Parakeet. I will give a little explanation about this one, I guess. I was house sitting for my parents when their parakeet decided to die. And it was a very long, drawn-out process. And my wife and I, we were dating at the time, we were literally trying to figure out ways that we could help him, pass more quickly because it was clear that he was suffering. So it's funny now that I read this, some of these are kind of funny, but like at the time we were earnestly trying to figure out, how to help him. But anyway, what to do with a dying parakeet. We considered the possibilities. We could drop a rock on him, drown him in the sink, poison him with household products, hold him inches from the exhaust pipe of Mom's running car. Neither of us would take his life, even though it was the humane thing to do. So Millerbird, the green parakeet, died naturally, died after 2 hours. 2 hours of screeching, falling off his perch, flailing his failing wings against the bars of the cage. We then wrapped him in a towel and held him so he couldn't fly or try to fly, held him when those green eyelids fell, when his legs straightened, when his feet curled into submission. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Nancy, would you like to go next? Nancy Cardenuto.
All right, I changed my plan coming in after thinking about Mary Oliver, so I'm going to do a Mary Oliver in the middle. The first poem is pretty new. I think some of you have heard it, even though it's pretty new. It's called Pepper, but I just changed the name of it to Salt and Pepper because I want you to picture in your mind a table with the salt and pepper shakers. All right. The pepper shaker's deep gorge remains a memory, thrown in anger, frustration magnified, bubbled up, overflowed, and was released in an explosion that hit a human target. The salt seemed safe, untouched, hidden behind the lamp, overlooked. Yet in witness to the event, it was not safe, was not untouched. As were not the little eyes peeking around the corner, hiding under pillows, in closets, folding and refolding clothes in cardboard boxes that served as dressers. Little eyes that dared not cry, dared not acknowledge, dared not feel, buried, hidden away. Until little eyes were old enough to look, old enough to feel, old enough to dive deep and allow the feelings to transform into a vessel that could still be used, like the pepper. Oh, okay, that's the pepper, and I have to read a Mary Oliver instead of the one I had planned, because the Mary Oliver transformed me. And it comes before my next poem, but this poem by Mary Oliver called Wild Geese really helped to transform me. It's called Wild Geese. The first line says, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves." That was the part that transformed me. But it continues. "Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscape, over the prairies and deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are headed home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things." Mary Oliver. Isn't she fabulous? And then this last poem, it started as a poem, was transformed to a song, but I'm going to read it as a poem. As a song, it kind of took on its own life, but it's called Light in the Darkness. "I hid in the darkness, and it clothed and swallowed me. Within my darkness, shards of light dwelt there with me. Suddenly, in the fullness of time, light surrounded me. My darkness was dressed all in light as it danced and set me free. There's no fear in the darkness, for the light hides there with me. Embrace the darkness, for the light stays there with me. When out of darkness thus came the light, I knew it had always been. There in my darkest of days, it just could not be seen. Light in all majesty uplifts and enfolds me. Nothing can harm me, for the light is all I see. Thank you.
Light is good, especially this time of year. Where we're starting to get a little bit more each day. Richard Esty, would you like to go next? Awesome. Okay, thank you.
I changed my plan a couple of times, but I think I have something I want to do. We were in Claremont, a few weeks ago now maybe, and we saw a used bookstore, and it's hard to drive by a used bookstore that's open. So we couldn't go that day, but we went back a few days later to Violet's bookshop in Claremont, and looking through the poetry section, I came up on 4 copies of this A Gathering of Poets, a Vermont anthology, Killington Arts Guild, 2006. And so the price was $12, and I said, $12? You have 4 down there. Can't you give me a discount? So she gave me a discount. Aren't I terrible? I'm cheap. Anyway, I found a really cute poem in it, page 30. I think the lady's name is Marguerite Lux Dye, and she died in 2007. So anyway, it's called Rocky Road. A woman praising Robert Frost to her husband, who wasn't impressed with her homework assignment. Quote, I took the road less traveled once, and it really fouled up my alignment. I just love that. And then I was whizzing through a little of Robert Frost this afternoon after my nap, and I said, look what I came up on. State of the Union message right here, and it's only 11 lines. A case for Jefferson. Harrison loves my country too, but he wants it all made over new. He's Freudian Viennese by night, by day he's Marxian Muscovite. It isn't because he's Russian Jew, he's Puritan Yankee through and through. He dotes on Saturday pork and beans, but his mind is hardly out of his teens. With him, the love of country means blowing it all to smithereens and having it all made over new. And then, I guess last month, maybe November, we were walking and we met this lady who, she, like me, a little bit more severely maybe, suffering a little bit from dementia. And she told us that when she was a college student at Middlebury College in the 1950s, that she had met Robert Frost, and she kept saying, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, except it didn't quite sound right. You know, she left out a few things in there, but I thought, I can't say it either. So I immediately went home, and what I usually do is I write them on little pieces of paper and carry them with me, and then finally when they get in the pocket and finally they get inside, maybe, So this one is stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there's some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. And if you know the rest, you can join in me. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And that was sort of fun getting it right, except I was memorizing at the same time with The Road Not Taken. And the form is different in each of them. You know, of course, this one is 4 lines. The Road Not Taken is 5 lines per stanza. So I kept getting them mixed up, saying, am I in the next stanza yet? Anyway, to make it simpler, I'm going to read a couple of my recent attempts. And I'm kind of nervous about it because even when I went to bed last night, one of the poems, this first one was, part of it was going through my head, and I said, oh, I got to change a word, but it was dark. But I always leave my phone within arm's reach, right? So I just have to reach over, I put on the glasses, and open up the notebook and type in what it was that I wanted to change. And otherwise, when I got up this morning, I knew I wanted to change something, but I couldn't remember what it was this morning. But looked at the phone, there it was. Okay, this is called Solo Scene, and it's based on, I got a little book for Christmas that is supposed to help you find your voice as a poet. And one of the exercises was to randomly scroll through your photographs and pick a photo and write a poem about it. And so I scrolled through back to November 21st, 2018 at 10:47 in the morning. West Windsor, Vermont, on the Shedsville Road. And the poem is called Solo Scene. Walking solo in the low glow light, a snowy November morning, one day before Thanksgiving, this lady, vested and reflective yellow, the gravel road arched over by dark green hemlocks, gracefully powdered by snow, no shadows in the gentle gray light. Indistinct wheel tracks show slush. The road slightly inclines and curves right. She walks along the edge of a sleeping marsh. The quiet, crisp air whispers a contemplative hush. The sky, lightly snow-speckled on gray limbs. The light I see. The light is demure delight. And then this one is also from last month, and I entitled it Icing Overture. It's also about walking in the same area. To my aging, well-muffled ears, the brook seems quieter this morning, just above a low, gentle whisper, accompanied by barely audible gurgles as ice increasingly covers the stream, this cloudy, frigid, faint sun day. Musical mystery is slowly forming a delicate, intricate design as fine as maidenhair fern in full summer. Here, where the stream drops over dead brush, slowing the flow, the ice is like braided hemp rope in layers big as my wrist. See that opening where the water flows fast? Icicles form from the residue of ripples over rocks, clinging to the seemingly suspended ice ceiling. Already in mid-January, this is the 3rd time this winter we have witnessed the brook erasing its art, ice art, by rain and warmth. Each current ice display is distinct, even along the same roadside location, composing with only cold air and rippling water. Due to the quiet choir of water, I was easily able to hear the rhythmic tut-tut-tut, tut-tut-tut of a red-headed woodpecker high up in an aging maple on the opposite bank. One day soon, I will walk the same road by the same brook. A new blanket of snow muffles the music and masks the art. Did they go on the show?
Thanks. And you made it, yay. Okay, so we'll do a couple more people and then we'll take a little break and then we'll come back after. So Ann Shivas, would you like to go now? Ann Shivas.
I wasn't planning to be here today, but I just happened to discover I was in Woodstock on the right day. So, and I happened to have my computer with me in the car, so I have access to some new poems. Okay. So, let's see. This first one is called 7 a.m. Catskills, 10/8/18, which was the day that Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court. There's the day that Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court, the morning of that. There's a couple of references in here. It refers to 3 separate dreams. There's a reference to an animal called an aye, which is the world's smallest primate. From Madagascar, and the aye has a very, very long middle finger. There are no woodpeckers in Madagascar, and so the aye evolved this really long finger for pulling grubs out of wood. So there's an aye in the middle of this poem. And I refer to somebody in this poem, the initials are GK, and that was a school friend of mine, a contemporary of mine, GK. There is a meadow. I see blades of grass, downy aster daisies gone to seed, 3 birds high on a bare branch, hear a dog bark, watch a leaf fall. I dreamed I was the guest of the President of France, land of Van Gogh, Cézanne. I lay out the yoga mat, unfold and balance a meditation stool to sit and stare. The big window frames a grassy clearing and trees. It is a blur, no straight lines. I sit near tears. And remember the nocturnal aye's extended middle finger, its tap-tap percussive foraging to find and pull grubs from tree limbs where no woodpeckers exist. I picture a creepy tap-tap Twitter finger evolving. The great leader's reach is too great. The night's dreams come back. A table and who gets to sit at which table. The uniformed, straight-backed children invited to sit where their parents sat. The question of who we elevate and their ascension already assured. I am dizzy. My vision shifts like a distorting mirror, spine woozy. I am reeling, punch-drunk, as if the cerebrospinal fluid is moving, my center shaky. I am living in a nightmare. In another dream, a painting, a black-eyed Susan yellow vase filled with flowers, decorative foliage on its finish, and a woman sitting at a cafe table, looking up the street to French mustard buildings, indigo sky, its unfathomable depth and starlight, a fall birch leaf yellow road. I sit, the trees setting their steady example, straight, unshifting. I bow to them. My central nervous system settles slowly, eyes open. I want to see what is there. The vision concentrates like a monocular looked through, used from the wrong end, the object diminished, distanced. I dreamed also of a classmate elevated to the highest court, a shiny metallic building, part church, part skyscraper set on a hill, raised. We saunter, meander up the switchbacks, amazed that G.K., former law student, famous drinker turned comedian and actor, has been so honored. It's a joke. I remember the white bowls of milky coffee in Rambouillet, the baguette, and waking up there. No, really, waking up there. My 17-year-old self who loved the burgundy velvet caftan, orange embroidered Afghan coat, and blue and white cork wedge sandals. Paris, waking up then, eating a ripe peach on a hot day, warm peach juice running down my chin in the market. Okay, that's wild. And then this next one, I got to make this print a little bit bigger, is called Wildlife. Into the old blue cotton-lined case, inside scalloped with elastic-topped pockets, I'll pack my dreams. 3 stacked through childhood on a platform behind banisters, sized to nest like babushka dolls, coveted matriarchs holding their close-fitted children. Distance was the dream of my days, leaving, packing the direction of travel. I couldn't wait to get away. One birthday, my mother gifted me a pale blue vinyl running away case, emblem of my mother's action never taken, a need understood though, prepared for. It holds a Victorian family Bible now, inscribed for Great-Aunt Nin, who, though she married, never made it to motherhood, her life consumed by tuberculosis, the Bible her only tangible remains. Let me pack wild dreams within, not of place, achievement, or known things. Instead, let them be for the unknown in my life, snug fit like cases, babushka dolls. And then the last one I'll read was written after looking at a painting over in an exhibition in Hanover by a Nigerian painter, a woman called Toyin Oji Odutola, who had a big exhibition, I think, in 2017 at the Whitney. So she's quite young, but she's made a big impact. And this is called Moons, after Winter Dispatch. A thumbnail, unpigmented pale on a black hand, charcoal dark stripes shade and show its shape. A tidy nail, filed to follow the finger's curve, a half-moon grey cuticle rises from its base. A sun yellow gold thumb ring sits below the joint. Thumb and forefinger grasp a gold pen poised over a sheet of cream paper. Only dearest mother legible, as below the lines become mere squiggles, an idea of script. How do we begin to write to our mother, author of so much of our life? She who lovingly clipped and trimmed our nails when we were too small to manage ourselves, after a bath, towel wrapped by a fire or window sun, precious beings, cuticles pushed down, moons admired for their detail, small details of a life.
Thanks very much. All right, so next we'll have Bob Burgess, and then we'll take a little break.
I do have had to change my plans, given that we're all appropriately in love with Mary. Oliver. I especially, Nancy read it so well, I'm not going to repeat it. Wonderful poem, Wild Geese. So I'm going to throw in something by Billy Collins instead in the beginning. Excuse me. And then we will finish with two other beauties of hers that many of you may know, and if not, may enjoy coming to know, etc. So these are some thoughts Billy Collins has on poetry readings similar to these. Okay, he said. Now it is time to say what you, the poet, have to say. The room is quiet. The whirring fan has been unplugged, and the girl who is tapping a pencil on her desktop has been removed. So tell us what is preciously on your mind. We want to hear the sound of your foliage, the unraveling of your toolkit, your songs of loneliness, your songs of hurt. The trains are motionless on the tracks. The ships are at rest in the harbor. The dogs are cocking their heads, and the gods are peering down from their balloons. The audience is hushed, and everyone here has a copy of what you wrote. So tell us about your parents, your father behind the steering wheel, your cruel, or was it suffering, mother at the sink. Let's hear about all the clouds you saw, all the trees. So read the poem you brought with you tonight. The ocean has stopped sloshing around, and I love this line, and even Beethoven is sitting up in his deathbed, his cold hearing horn inserted in one ear. What are we waiting for? That's Billy. And now let's go to Mary. Whoever we are, no matter how lonely. This is another one that's very well known, with a wonderfully, deceptively simple, but very accurate title. Somebody's Delight in Simply a Summer Day. Who made this world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. This one who has flung herself out of the grass. This one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms, imagine, and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. So I don't know exactly what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. So you tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? So tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Nevertheless, so many of us still feel like we be living lies and lives of quiet desperation, getting older by the day. This ain't no rehearsal, you've heard it. It's the real deal, the final actual play. So what do you want from the rest of your life, we say? What are you going to do with it? Really? Are you working on it? We all know, especially those of us who are getting too old, don't wait too long. Because as Mary, again, Mary-O would say, you know what's coming. And it came. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes like top bidder at the auction block and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles or chicken pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, when death comes, I want to step through that door, full not of fear, but of curiosity, wondering what it's going to be like, that cottage of darkness. And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time itself as no more than an idea. And I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. And when it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride, married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. And when it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument or resentment. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Thank you.
Okay, so I have to read just one more Mary Oliver poem before break. Because the second one that you read about, that was beautiful, and thank you for reading the one about death. The second one you read about how she lived reminded me of one that is one of my very favorites. It's a short little thing, and I'm really sure it's in this book.
Bear?
No, I never found the bear. There's this fabulous poem of Mary Oliver's, and it talks about a bear is in the woods over here, and it talks about people in their living room here, and they're doing their thing, and I haven't read it in like a year and a half, and the symmetry of it all, and how we're all one family. It's a beautiful little thing, and geez, if I'm looking in the wrong, if this gets too long, I'll just like be quiet and I'll go away. Maybe I'll find it during the break. I thought for sure it was in this one. It starts, angels are wonderful, but they're so,
Elusive.
well, is it elusive? Is that the word?
Angels are elusive. Yeah.
So is this poem. You know what? Okay, so we'll do it after the break. Okay, so let's take a break, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes, and then I'll have a poem for you.
All right.
Okay. All right, are we ready? Yes. We're not quite, oh, here we go. Okay. Cheers. Are we good? All right, welcome back, everybody. So I found the thing I was looking for, and the reason I couldn't find it before was, well, just because I couldn't find it, but the name of it doesn't say anything about angels. The name of this poem is Forgive Me, but it relates to the grasshopper poem, summer poem. Angels are wonderful, but they are so, well, aloof. It's what I sense in the mud and the roots of the trees, or the well, or the barn, or the rock with its citron map of lichen that halts my feet and makes my eyes flare, feeling the presence of some spirit, some small god who abides there. If I were a perfect person, I would be bowing continuously. I'm not. Though I pause wherever I feel this holiness, which is why I'm often so late coming back from wherever I went. Forgive me. I just love that. Okay. And then I'm just indulging myself tonight with all these Mary Oliver poems. This is called The Fist. There are days when the sun goes down like a fist. Though, of course, if you see anything in the heavens in this way, you had better get your eyes checked, or better still, your diminished spirit. The heavens have no fist, or wouldn't they have been shaking it for 1,000 years now, and even longer than that, at the dull, brutish ways of mankind? Heaven's own creation? Instead, such patience, such willingness to let us continue, to hear little by little the voices, only so far in pockets of the world, suggesting the possibilities of peace. Keep looking. Behold how the fist opens with invitation. Alrighty. Next, we have Yash Dembinski.
Don't knock yourself out.
What? Sorry, it's a very small little slip of paper. Okay, after last time, one of the poets who is not with us now complimented me on a poem I shared. So I want to share it again. And it goes, it's 12 seconds of silence. So. What did you hear? All right. I, too, have been thinking about Mary Oliver because I talked with Danielle, and she told me that she was going to share some Mary Oliver. And were you surprised that I said I loved Mary Oliver? I forget.
I'm never surprised what people say these days, actually.
Okay.
I'll take it.
But we did conclude we're different.
I think that's
Yeah.
a little. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, but I have loved Mary Oliver's poems, and so I thought I was on I don't know where I was, but I was driving someplace, and I thought I should try to, maybe I could channel Mary Oliver. So I actually started thinking of, I thought how she just brought our attention to that which is so obvious, and yet somehow she could kind of unfold it, and there you would see the divine. So I'm going to save, I do have a little poem, which I just wrote out from the recordings I made as I was driving along, because I don't trust my memory, and I'll share that at the end. Before that, a Rilke poem, which goes like this. I'd love to recite it now and then later, because the first time you hear it, I think you just are, at least this is always my case, you're like a deer in the headlights. You know something is just so wonderful and gorgeous and is there, but you can't quite get your head around it. But then you hear it again and somehow you begin to go, aha. So let me do it now. And it goes like this. It is the next sonnet to Orpheus in the series that I've been reciting. So it's number 9. And it goes, only one who has lifted the lyre among shadows too may divining render the infinite praise. Only who with the dead has eaten of the poppy that is theirs will never again lose the most delicate tone. Though the reflection in the pool often swims before our eyes, know the image. Only in the dual realm may voices become eternal and mild. Rilke. All right. I do have a chapter, this is why I'm dressed in black, because it was a very difficult chapter to memorize, because Moses, the Bible doesn't tell you everything. There's lots of hidden stories in the Bible, and Moses makes his way back to Egypt. Somewhere along the line, Zipporah helps his wife save his life, and yet she doesn't accompany him to Egypt. So there had to be a split. And I wondered about it, and I wondered about it, and this is how I envisioned the split. Moses focused his eyes on the landscape. It looked forbidding. He wondered again as to his wisdom. There was no escape. They'd come too far. He had nothing to gain if he returned with his family. Why had he brought them? Zipporah comforted him in many subtle ways, but to die with her in the desert, being sported by the elements. The wind and the sands were not engaged in children's play. His beard was encrusted, despite his hands brushing, shielding when he could. Had he heard God speak aright to him? Clearly to him? And why alone? Why the bush? He thought of the night of the great serpent. He thought of the night of the desert's strange whirlwind, of his cry for Zipporah, and of his inner sight. The great serpent burying its fangs. Yes, we all had to come. Lord, bless your servants. No voice, no higher power spoke to him. A fierce desert wind blew through the caravan with blinding sands. His thought turned to his family. What could he do to support and lift their spirits? He sought for Zipporah and found her sheltered by Aaron's upturned wagon with the children. Zipporah rocking the baby, its cry cutting through the blasting winds. The burden of her estrangement from Moses' spirit had sapped her hope. What was she without him? She looked up, wondering, would he even sit with his children and try to comfort them? The wind howled and the sandstorms filled the sky. Zipporah looked wretched with their children. He huddled down alongside them. How? Why? Is this your spirit, O Lord?
Then let them go.
Came the answer in his mind. Let them go. He wondered. Let them go? Yes? Moses' awareness grew. He had been blind. God spoke to him. He alone must follow, as the Lord had instructed. But his wife, he could not make her needs and wants his own anymore. her life would be secure with God. He had been shown the way he was to follow. Their children, the Lord would provide. All this he had known intuitively in the bright flames when the Lord spoke to him. Had the wind died down? If you want to return, in a whisper, Moses spoke to Zipporah, we will give you servants and supplies, all the whatever you need. She looked at him. Were these words true? Moses' face was set without expression, and she saw a man no longer her man in love, but one wedded to his mission, his people. Your plan is my plan, and your God is, but she could not say more, embracing both her boys. When the next day they were leaving, when he could not ignore, Zipporah spoke to Moses, go your way, and I will know your God is God alone if you return and help Eleazar shoot the bow. If not, be this God unknown. Moses balanced her words and his faith. For as the Lord is God, I will return. Then he blessed the children, helped them on their way, Zipporah and boys to Midian, himself to Egypt. He would not delay. All right, got through it. Thank you for your indulgence. And now, I'll let you call it. Should I do that Rilke poem again, or just do the Mary Oliver? Do the Mary Oliver? Okay. So this is, nobody can be Mary Oliver, but just thinking about her, this is what came to mind. Look at that, the green pine. I know everyone, but the pine cones, the hungry earth, a bristling friend with needles in winter. It is mine, not an image on the page or even sounds, my voice, but something real to touch.
Thank you. I think paying homage to a poet with a poem like theirs is a good thing to do. Yeah. Someone recently told me that, because I talk about not ever writing a poem, someone said, Danelle, people do write poems imitating their favorite poets, and that's like a way to start writing poems. And I'm going to do that. Haven't done it yet.
Mary Oliver says you should do.
That Mary Oliver says that? Oh, well then.
The handbook's in the library, her little handbook on poetry.
Okay.
And she said, and of course, in the old days, like in Wordsworth and Coleridge's day, if you took a phrase or a line or two from another poet putting your poem, that was considered honoring the poet. It wasn't considered plagiarism or stealing. It was where you honored the poet, is to take a line or two. So I'm listening to you guys. I'm going to take a few lines and take them down here.
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
That's right.
What's that?
What's that phrase?
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah.
And it's true in music, and it's true in the visual arts. It's true, all over the place. Anyway, so now everyone knows who it is who told me to do that. But and I will. So then we'll have Ann Schaffmaster and then Gavin. Okay, so Ann Schaffmaster.
This first poem, I'm reading 3. This poem is called Embarrassed. Embarrassed. And the roads are too icy to leave the house. Well, I emptied the laundry room cabinets. I can follow directions, you know. But the sculptured young carpenter started in the bathroom. Fuck. A reliable young man. He's still hammering in there right now. Who would ever have thought of the tub as an actor in a slightly pornographic flick in which the opening shot, improbable, yes, is of my vibrator, lubricant, dildo, and an array of et ceteras to knock anyone's pants right off, staring up at me, a bit invasive, while he smiles down on his hands and knees, wild, though at rest, in a huddle of desire, there in my tub, a little nest. It's all good, he says. Thank you. This poem is written for a dog I love very much, and this poem is called Late Afternoon in December. It is winter again, a cold one, with much rain and sleet. My neighbors slide by in shifts, walking their dogs, jogging in zigzags to avoid the ice that formed last night to seal the blacktop with tape. The temperature dips quickly, and when I get out of my chair to get your leash, your eyes open part way, then close, tight as fists, prepared to fight. I remember our first winter, when your puppy face shoveled snow like a plow without brakes. But now you and I have aged and are bothered by wind and chill. As I open the slider to the backyard and breathe in the cold air, you look up at me once, then step outside, as if what is coming next is nothing more than stoking the fire on just another ordinary night. And this last poem is called Paradigm. For 3 years, we fought off and on like a blinking light. After a while, there was a rhythm to it, reliable yet insane. In between intimacy, I would reinvent the wheel, although everything I did felt like a pilgrimage from your house back to mine. Set free from your unpredictability, pain receded and wildflowers bloomed in my backyard. But when there was no more rain, I wanted your mouth to travel deep inside of mine. I wanted something exotic and terribly hard to define. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks. So Gavin Wincoop Fisher. And then I'll have one more Mary Oliver at the end.
Okay. I don't know, I'm going to be kind of all, I don't know, I maybe have a theme here. I guess I want to start sort of reflecting. I don't know if this is a really good poem, but this is sort of a draft that I found when I was trying to decide what to read tonight. And it's kind of a reflection on words, and maybe this will make sense to you poets. When I told her words are flexible, I meant that the page is a dance studio for terms, and a very mixed class at that. Some of the dancers are graceful and gorgeous, some are clunky and clumsy, some would rather be living props. Some are stiff and professional, some have incredible imaginations and passions and can hardly be choreographed. Some are ancient, moving stiffly across a tongue, praying to be admired through the dust motes for its resilience, if not relevance. Still others are brand new, bouncing off the walls, skating on the cutting edge, buzzwords zipping with the frothing energy of novelty. But if I can teach them their forms, if they'll buy the bigger theme, if they really listen, if they believe beyond the etymological bindings, if they might cast their phoneme bones in a new light, new hue, if they will move with the music, if they will move with my heart, we may take this show from this page, flowing, flowering, synchronicity, shifting sentiments and subjectivity to the central temporal lobe, framed strangely in the brain. For words that dance, there is no other stage. Yeah, so it's sort of a, thank you. I guess, I don't know, it's a reflection on, the way words, paint pictures in our minds, and that's all they do, but it's everything. I don't know, it's kind of amazing. I've got 3 poems that sort of deal with various states of water and how water relates to being human. And it works for today, I think. So let me see if I can find where I start. Not there. Okay. This one, it doesn't have a title, but this is sort of more about ice as a state of water. There are so many brands of silence, each with its own density, its own breaking point, as ice might form over a lake or immure a whole home in quiet chill, dropping like mercury in a vein of glass, like a frigid portcullis of unspoken icicles lowering, night by frozen night, between the 2 human pillars of a family. Or there is the vicious rhyme of unreason, the cold fog of indifferent tradition carried by the icy wind of fear, and the blinding fog of hate, pernicious legacies of warring apes, hoar-frost-bitten muzzles forming on the mouths of men who detected the presence of detestable violence in his own vulnerable vessel. I don't know. Okay. So if that's frozen, then this one's for a day like today. I call this one Conjuring Spring. It's above freezing today, and I feel everything moving again. The blood through my veins, filling my body with hot oxygen potential, and the words stir in their capillaries, racing for that trephination like the first sweet sap of springtime, to be drank and considered in those cold, broken mornings. These old hills scattered with varicose veins, crackling and loosening into mud and gravel wash. In this stranger warmth, the fluffed bedding of banks is evaporating, erasing layers like ranks of ghosts surrendering to springtime's battle lines, and each lays itself on this glacier-grazed land, so many unmarked graves of unsung snowmen, and they'll put up their icicle bayonets and forgive the frost that formed about the first fragile flakes of their cold-blooded hearts, and spring will take them all. Even drag the most frigid figure from the north face shadows as June begins to rise and bloom, and each graying corpse collapses further into itself, losing ground by the roadside, losing face and form, losing steam, so to speak, and each little vaporous exhale is an echo of my own exclamations. The defrosted words of elated escapism, a quiet chorus in graceful defeat. the designs of degrees releasing their structures and shackles, to be again everywhere at once, to be again the very substance of life, and leave behind only the memories of another form or frigid occupation, and the graying grime of their collected freckles, angel-kissed grit drying in the sun, shining amongst the dirt, the grace of the commonplace, like the easily missed miracle of forgiveness in a steadily unstable world. Okay. And now we're flowing. Call this one Death as Confluence. And if we are rivers, then loss is a stone dropped. A strong current might hardly notice. If the water is churning, raging, it may carry that stone a long way, but eventually it will touch that quiet, settled bed, your underbelly, the unclaimed body, a collection of losses, sand like unrecorded histories, the deconstructed bones and cells of a landscape out of sight, the body below words. And there the stones will settle in clouds, will trouble the clarity of your brook, and you will always know the form of that stone, a place you cannot fill, but it will shift your course time and time again. And those dark clouds of grief, the grit of the subconscious, will be scattered upwards and pulled away downstream. Tiny, shining minerals dancing in your mind, changing everything into wordless memories. All these fragments of love swirling through our bodies, borne away steadily back to that invisible ocean, downstream to that holy teeming sea, beyond history, the oldest of anything, and still yet expanding, generously, as if to say, there will always be a place here, everywhere, space for every new you and every new me. And yeah, I'd like to do one more. It's kind of quick. And this one, I don't know, maybe it's self-explanatory. I'm not gonna distract you. It goes like this. Light is the medium, meaning we are lampshade people, filaments behind your pupils. It's that kind of fragile shine best defined by its departure. See, perspective is the artwork. We could weave a million fantasies. Every heart is still a dartboard. And like trees, we're adding rings with our capacity to grow ours. Me amor, you won't need all that bark and shining armor, 'cause in every perforation, an opportunity to shine more. And you're dismissing the point if you've been endeavoring to shrink yours. Ludicrous labors like an ocean trying to shake shores. Got really busy pillaging, forgot to learn to pay forward. And all that self-doubt left us stressed, cast out, and way opposite of starboard.
Thanks. One thing I forgot to say earlier, we have the notebook that people can sign saying you were here. The pen is over here. It'll go over there. But if you want to sign it just to make your mark for the night, then do. Once again, it's been a fabulous evening.
And include all other poets you brought to us.
If you'd like to also write, you can write whatever you want in the book. I love doing this. It's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to end with one more Mary Oliver called How Would You Live Then? This one is from the book. I should probably say what these are from. This one's from Blue Iris. I've read from like 4 or 5 different ones of her books. She has bunches. How would you live then? What if 100 rose-breasted grosbeaks flew in circles around your head? What if the mockingbird came into the house with you and became your advisor? What if the bees filled your walls with honey and all you needed to do was ask them and they would fill the bowl? What if the brook slid downhill just past your bedroom window so you could listen to its slow prayers as you fell asleep? What if the stars began to shout their names or to run this way and that above the clouds? What if you painted a picture of a tree and the leaves began to rustle and a bird cheerfully sang from its painted branches? What if you suddenly saw that the silver of water was brighter than the silver of money? What if you finally saw that the sunflowers, turning toward the sun all day and every day, who knows how, but they do it, were more precious, more meaningful than gold? That's it. Come join us next month. This is not leap year, right? So it'll be March 5th. Yeah, Tuesday, March 5th. Awesome. Thank you, one and all. Yeah.